Phones, iPads, computers, this is what we use to read nowadays. But what happens if you were in a zombie apocalypse and all the electricity and internet was down? What would you do? There are benefits to reading on digital devices, but books offer emotional, physical, and mental benefits that ebooks just can't provide. So what is the concern regarding reading books on devices? Our circadian rhythm is our sleep-awake clock, and it is affected by light and dark. The hypothalamus, found here in the brain, controls our circadian rhythms. When it gets dark, it sends a message to the brain to start producing melatonin. That is what makes us feel tired. The backlights on devices is what suppresses melatonin. So therefore, you might feel like you're out of sorts or you have a hard time paying attention. In a Harvard medical study published in the Journal Proceedings of National Academy of Science, 12 people were taken into a laboratory, and for 5 days, they were allowed to read on iPads. For 5 days, they were allowed to read books. At the end of the study, they found that those people who were reading iPads had greatly decreased their levels of melatonin and that they had a hard time falling asleep. They also found that disrupting our sleep habits over a period of time could have consequences on our health. They believe that an increase of cardiovascular disease is a risk, as well as metabolic diseases such as obesity, cancer, and diabetes. Eye strain was another concern from reading on digital devices. Most everybody stares at some sort of digital device throughout the day for long periods of time. Naomi Barron, author of Words on Screen, The Fate of Reading in a Digital World, surveyed 429 students. Over half of them complained of eye strain after reading digitally. Brain function is also another concern. Excessive screen time can damage both white and gray matters in our brain. Studies have also shown that distractions and notification can decrease our cognitive capacity. This happens when notifications and distractions come over our e-readers when we're reading. It suppresses and ignores those notifications, our brain does. But that takes energy, and that energy decreases our cognitive capacity. People also have a tendency to scan when they're reading on digital devices, and this can cause problems for our reading comprehension. There are some great benefits to having a digital device with lots and lots of books on it. You can virtually take it anywhere. But the downside to that is, if you lose that device, you're going to spend hundreds to thousands of dollars to replace it. Whereas if you lose a book, you might put out $30 to $50 to replace it. So why are traditional paper books the better option? Well, ebooks originally were targeted for adults, but the younger generation has fallen in love with them. Dr. Jim Taylor, author of Raising Generation Tech, says, don't get rid of books yet. There's good reasons why we have them. One of them is for tactile sensation. There's something about holding a book in your hand and being able to open it up. You can see how far you've come and how far you have to go. And the smell, there's nothing like the smell of a book. And being able to write in the margins and put your name in the front, that gives you ownership. It makes you a very serious reader. Julia Parrish Morris, a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Pennsylvania, studied how children interact with ebooks. And she said, books help you fall in love with reading. Reading experiences where a child sits with an adult and cuddles and reads a book together can set the stage for later reading success. Lisa Guernsey, a director of the Early Education Initiative at the New American Foundation, says reading a book helps a child focus, helps a child with their attention. The music, animation, and games, they're loaded into kids' ebooks nowadays end up becoming more of a distraction than helpful. The technology is so exciting for them that the conversation focuses on what button to push versus content. However, there are benefits for children who read ebooks. They're good for boosting early reading skills when coupled with printed text. They're more interactive and they're instantly rewarding. The greatest thing is they can cater to a child's unique learning style. College students found that print stood out as the medium for them when having serious studies. They said it's easier to focus, they understand it more, and they're able to keep the content for a longer period of time. The downside of that is when they are reading off of ebooks, there's distractions and they feel like they can't concentrate as well. They also say they're cheaper and more convenient. Going back to Naomi Barron's study, she said that 40% of the students said convenience is why they convert to ebooks. But they also said if ebooks and printed books were the same cost, they would definitely take printed books over the ebooks. Books are tangible human creations, part of our physical and historical cultures. But ebooks are part of our culture now too. You don't need to throw out the old in order to bring in the new. There's lots to be gained from both. Nothing, though, will ever replace cuddling up with a good book with your children or by yourself. So what are you going to do if there is a zombie apocalypse? Well, there's a couple of things you can do. You can make sure all your digital devices are fully charged, and you can make sure that you have a stack of books.